All right, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking something truly empowering. We're looking at a fantastic blueprint for how ordinary citizens can literally take back control of their streets, their neighborhoods, and quite frankly, their tax dollars from local administration. If you've ever felt completely powerless about the state of your city's infrastructure, well, you're definitely going to want to stick around and pay close attention to the strategies we're about to explore. I mean, think about this for a second. You're driving to work, minding your own business, and bam, you hit a massive pothole that definitely wasn't there last week. Or maybe your street turns into a river every single time it rains. You just sit there frustrated, right? Wondering who is actually responsible for fixing this mess? And more importantly, who decides when and how it gets fixed? The truth is, for a long time, citizens have been totally left out of that loop. But as our sources today will show us, it absolutely doesn't have to be that way. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap. First up, the Urban Governance Challenge. Second, tools for citizen power. Third, exposing corruption with RTI. Fourth, the model ward experiment. Fifth, preventing the traffic storm. And finally, organizing for local change. Starting with Section 1, the Urban Governance Challenge. To figure out how to fix the system, we first need to understand why it's broken and why community participation has just been, well, completely absent historically. Our source materials, which include a really comprehensive guide to citizen participation, highlight a major systemic issue within the Bruhat Bengaluru Mahanagara Palage, or the BBMP. Citizens groups have heavily criticized the BBMP for bad planning and just all-around poor implementation. And the core of the problem? It's this deeply entrenched nexus, kind of a cozy little triangle between government officials, elected representatives, and businesses. This massive breakdown in governance is exactly what leads to wasted public money, shoddy public works, and the exact neighborhood frustrations you and I face every single day. Let's move to Section 2, Tools for Citizen Power. The good news here is you're absolutely not defenseless. We have some massive legal milestones that have completely shifted power back to the public. It all kicked off in 1992 with the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act, also known as the Nagarpalika Act. Its entire stated purpose was power to the people, literally mandating that local communities have a real say in planning and monitoring works. Then came the Right to Information Act in 2005, which basically pried open those closed government doors. And finally, a huge win in April 2012, the Karnataka Guarantee of Services to Citizens Act. This finally mandated time-bound services across 11 key departments. To really grasp just how powerful that 2012 act is, look at the direct financial consequences. It didn't just ask nicely for better governance. It brought actual, literal penalties. Officials with no complaints against them, 0 default officials, actually receive incentives. But defaulting officials, they are forced to pay a compensatory penalty straight out of their own pockets, ranging from 20 to 250 rupees, for failing to deliver services on time. It's just a brilliant way to hit them in the wallet and enforce real accountability. Which brings us to Section 3, Exposing Corruption with RTI. So, what happens when regular people actually use these tools? In Visveshwarapuram's Ward 50, a citizen federation called Superja used the Right to Information Act to pull documents the BBMP had previously kept hidden. The sheer audacity of what they revealed is mind-blowing. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the gap between the paperwork and reality. They found that the government claimed they paid over 3.6 lakh rupees to a contractor for asphalting Ramayanga Road. But when the citizens walked out and checked the physical reality, the road had never been asphalted at all. They were literally paying ghosts for phantom roads. And it definitely didn't stop there. Let's break down the math on this Basavanagajui drain project, because it is wild. The sanctioned estimate of the work actually completed was 6.55 lakhs, but the amount paid to the contractor? 16.48 lakhs. That is nearly 10 lakh rupees of public money just vanished into thin air with 0 documentation. But because these citizens were organized and had the hard data, they filed complaints with the Lokayukta, the anti-corruption ombudsman, who investigated and formally directed the government to take action against the culprits. Section 4, the Model Ward Experiment. Exposing bad governance is crucial, for sure. But what about proactively creating good governance? Let's look at Sagaipuram, Ward 60. This perfectly illustrates how grassroots action begins. What you're seeing is a real, official 2012 letter from the Richardstown Citizens Association. Real citizens sat down, typed these letters up, knocked on doors, and formed actual federations to bring different community groups together. They didn't just sit around waiting for the government to invite them. They invited themselves to the table to plan their own ward's development. Central to this whole effort were groups like Civic Bangalore. And notice how they didn't just fight the system, they actually collaborated with it. Through initiatives known as Janaspandana meetings, civil society groups sat face-to-face with BBMP, water, and electricity officials. It was a holistic, cooperative approach that actually reduced public complaints, simply because the citizens and officials were finally communicating proactively. So the crucial point is this exact 4-step blueprint they developed for participatory budgeting. Check this out. First, the citizens, not some distant bureaucrats, decide what works are actually needed in their neighborhood. Second, they prioritize those projects and estimate the costs. Third, they hand that localized budget over to their elected councillor to include in the official program of works. And fourth, they conduct a social audit of the finished work to make absolutely sure they got what they paid for. It's a complete, airtight cycle of accountability. Section 5. Preventing the traffic storm. Let's fast forward to the present day, 2026, and see how this builds up. The tools of citizen governance are now being used to prevent massive urban disasters before they even happen. According to our sources from the Bangalore Mirror, North Bangalore is facing some serious looming chaos. The city plans to demolish and reconstruct the IOC Rotary Bridge, and this isn't just a minor road closer. It threatens to completely disrupt major arteries connecting Marusi Savanagar, Banasawadi, and Kamanahali. It threatens crucial access to the SMVT railway terminal, which handles thousands of passengers every day. And, to make matters even worse, there is a simultaneous KRID rail project being constructed right underneath it. It's a recipe for total gridlock. But instead of just waiting for the traffic nightmare to start, citizens are using their organized power. The Bengaluru Eshanya Mahavedhike, or BEM, convened a meeting directly with the traffic police. Murali Samhadri from BEM summed it up perfectly, saying, "A trial run of diversion routes is essential so that commuters can adapt and authorities can identify issues before the actual closure." They are actively demanding a 1-month trial run of traffic diversions. This right here, this is proactive, highly organized citizen governance in action. Because these citizens actually live in the neighborhood, they possess vital local knowledge that top-down city planners often just completely overlook. They pointed out what we'll call the 5-meter bottleneck. The existing railway underpass nearby is a tiny 5-meter tunnel that is already choked with daily traffic. If the main bridge closes, this tunnel will become an absolute nightmare. So, using their local insight, the citizens logically demanded an additional underpass bypass during the construction period. This is exactly why local voices absolutely have to be at the planning table. Finally, Section 6. Organizing for local change. All these case studies are super inspiring, but you might be wondering, how do you actually plug into these networks to fix your own street? Well, the answer lies in digital tools and community consolidation. Platforms like RWA Central, which you can find in the B-City directories, are total game changers. They list citizens' organizations all across the city. By bringing multiple small resident welfare associations, like the Federation of Bangalore Northeast RWAs, under one single roof, citizens can pool their resources, amplify their voices, and scale their impact to address large, systemic issues that a single small neighborhood group could honestly never tackle alone. Which leaves us with this final, slightly provocative question. What will you audit in your ward today? We've seen how citizens use the RTI to expose phantom roads. We've seen how they drafted their very own budgets, and how they sit down with traffic police to prevent massive gridlock. The laws are there, the blueprints exist, and the power is literally waiting for you to pick it up. It's time to step outside, take ownership of your street, and put these tools to work. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time as we continue to break down the systems that shape our world.